Hello, everyone, and welcome to Love, Mercy, and Grace. I am your host, Ruthie.
And I am your co-host, Rose.
Today, we have an episode with my cousin, Blanca. She is our guest today, Blanca Velasquez-Treviño. She is a musician, a vocalist, a songwriter.
Yes, we are continuing the series on grief. In previous episodes, we have discussed the grief of losing a parent, uncle, sibling, and child. And today we will be discussing the grief of losing a best friend. Unfortunately, our cousin Blanca has experienced this type of loss. So she is here today to share her story. Welcome, Blanca. Thank you for being our guest today. How are you?
Hi, great to see y'all. I am doing good. Praise God. Thank you for having me. First time ever doing something like this.
And I know that this is not easy for you. As Rose mentioned, we have talked about losing immediate family, parents and siblings and uncles. But as far as a best friend, not a lot of people have talked about that, the loss of a best friend. I wanted to ask, how did you meet and how long did you know her before she passed away?
Tracy and I met in 8th grade, and that was a long time ago. The way we met, it's actually kind of funny. She was my brother's friend, Santos, my oldest brother. She was a friend of his, and one day her and a couple of other friends came looking for my brother at home, and I was the very protective sister. Like, I didn't like girls calling for my brothers and stuff. So when she showed up and she knocked on the door, I opened the door and she asked, "Is Santos here?" She had this really cute little voice. And I looked at her and I said no, and I slammed the door. But I felt bad because something about her, like I did that to other girls when they would call, "Is Santos there?" I'd be like, "No," and I'd hang up on them or whatever. But with her it was different. And she ended up calling later that day. And I ended up being nice to her. And then I just feel thereafter, like, was really nice to her. And every time she called or they would all hang out, her and Ramona and some other of my brother's friends. I always was very nice to her. I strongly believe that she was put in my brother's path to be my friend. And that's how it started.
And how long did you know her before she passed away?
28 years.
28 years. That's a long time. And can you share a bit about her? Like, what was she like? What was her character like?
Tracy was an amazing person. She was a loving person. She was a great daughter, an awesome sister. And she was just a beautiful person inside and out. She was a great tia to my kids. Andres knew her as Tia Tracy. Jojo knew her as Tia Tracy. And even Talia got to meet her and call her Tia Tracy. And to this date, they talk about Tia Tracy. She was just an amazing friend, an amazing sister. You know how people say, "I loved her like a sister"? No, I loved her as my sister. She was a friend that is irreplaceable. I'll never find another Tracy. And I think you all got to meet her as well, right? At church?
I was thinking, Rose, and I was going to ask, if I'm not mistaken, I do believe that she did visit us when we were on commercial. Am I correct?
Yes.
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 I think she went twice, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Because she lived out of town, correct?
She lived in California.
And then, so one of the times that she came to visit, she came to the church. I remember.
Yes. Yeah. Her and her fiance, Danny. Yep.
I wanted to see if there's some memories you can share with us.
Along with what I said about her, Tracy was also giving. She was loving. She was unselfish. She was selfless. She was honest. She was loyal. She was funny, silly, but she was also a little firecracker, which I think this is why we got along, you know?
So with that being said, what are some highlighted memories? You know how when we have friends, we have so many memories, but there's always about 3 or 4 that just stand out. What did it feel?
Before I gave my life to Christ, I was performing in the world. Tracy would crash my gigs. She did not care whether she was invited or not. She would crash my gigs. You know how there was that saying in the World album with the DJ? She was with Blanca y Grupo Cielo, so she did not care. She would crash my gigs. She was supportive of everything I ever did, music-wise. Some of the highlights would be like when we would hang out at her house, how she would always have me singing in her backyard. Andres was very little one of the times that We were singing in the back of her yard, and Andres decided he was tired, so he decided to climb inside my guitar case, and he actually fell asleep inside the
Oh my
guitar
gosh.
case. She just thought that was so amazing. Like you said, some of the things that we did the last years, one of the things that really sticks out for me is when she would fly into San Antonio, there were times that we didn't get to see each other because she would just fly in for a little while, for a little bit, like the day sometimes, or just a couple of days, but it was doctor's appointments. It was all of that for her, so we didn't get to see each other, but we always made time to talk to each other. Great memories that I remember is that not a birthday, not an anniversary ever passed, no matter how far she was, that she would remember everything.
Mm-hmm.
Andres's birthday, Thalia's birthday,
Mm-hmm.
Jojo's birthday, my anniversary, my birthday. She's the only one, was the only one, I should say, that had ever called and serenaded me. And that is something that will stay with me forever. Unfortunately, I lost the phone that had that on there, and I don't have it anymore. But one of the last few memories was when we sat on my couch, massaging each other's feet, massaging each other's legs, just laughing and reminiscing about so much. And she approved of Juan. She approved of him. Tracy was there for me as I was for her. There was one time that she flew into San Antonio. Might have been either 2011, maybe. She was at her mom's house and I was at work. I remember she called me crying because she could not get up. She was on the floor. And I remember telling my boss, I'm out of here. I didn't care whether he approved or he didn't. I left and I was able to be there for her.
If you don't mind me asking, what was her diagnosis? What did she pass from?
She had, I think it's called myelofibrosis. It's a form of leukemia. That's what she was diagnosed with. I remember when she first told me, I think they had called the ambulance because she was having chest pain. And then from there, it's where it started. And they
It just started progressing from there.
And they found out that that's what she had.
Wow.
And we prayed and prayed. One thing about Tracy is that she loved God. She was a believer and she trusted God for whatever his plans were for her life. She had gotten engaged. I remember it was like 2012, sometime September. She had ended up in the hospital. She came out of the hospital. And then she had called me and I had had surgery and I was at home. And I remember that she came out of the hospital and everything, because she went through quite a bit. Her brother, JD, was actually a match for bone marrow. So he had been giving her bone marrow. And I want to say it was sometime in October. She had called me and she had told me we're going to start planning her wedding. And she was home sometime in October, I want to say. And then she ended up back in the hospital in November. And this is when she never came back.
And she passed in 2013, am I correct?
2013, January 30th of 2013.
From the time she got sick, how long was it before she passed?
I don't remember. I'm thinking it was 5 years, maybe longer. I don't remember. It's a blur to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's understandable. No, that is a hard question. It can be a little, not a little, I'm saying very emotional to reminisce and just go back to that day. How did you receive the news that she had passed?
I got a call. I was at work. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I had had surgery. So I remember her telling me B. She would call me B, my B or B. She wouldn't call me Blanca. And I remember her calling me and telling me, B, I need you to come. I need you to come. I want you to come to California. And I wanted to so badly, but I couldn't because I had just had a hysterectomy. So I couldn't fly. My doctor wouldn't let me fly. So I remember maybe like the second week of January, maybe the doctor gave me permission to fly. And so I was preparing to fly. I remember I asked God to make a way with finances and everything. And I remember praying and telling God, I need to be by her side. I never got the chance. I remember getting the call and I just fell to my knees and I screamed. Of course, everybody runs to me and I'm just suffocated. I couldn't believe it. I never got a chance to say it. I never got a chance.
I can only imagine what that feels like. I remember when Rose, I'm sure you remember that we thought for a bit that we were not going to be able to say goodbye to our Theo. And just the thought of not being able to say goodbye to someone you love like that, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, like what's going to happen? So you didn't even get the chance to say goodbye. I am sure that was beyond heartbreaking, beyond what words can even describe. And I'm so sorry that you had to go through that.
I'm sorry. I can honestly tell you that it's probably been in the past maybe 2 or 3 years that I finally have, what is the word I'm looking for? Maybe accepted,
Came to terms?
came to terms that perhaps it wasn't in God's plans for me to be there. I was so angry with him. I was so mad, asking him why he never answered my prayer, why he never made a way for me to be at her side. Because I wanted to be there so bad. I wanted to hold her hand. I wanted to hug her. But I never got to do that. And that killed me, and it still does. But it kills me for other reasons because I miss her so much. There are days where I just want to talk to her, I want to hear her voice.
And also the fact that she wasn't even here. It's not like you missed it and she was like 10 minutes away, 15 minutes away and you were stuck in traffic. No, she was in another state that you couldn't even get to. So it seemed even more overwhelming.
Like more desperation.
There you go. Like more desperation.
That's exactly what I felt. So desperate, so helpless. I did not understand why God did not allow me not to be there. I wanted to be there. And then I would go and sit at her grave. I know she's not there. But I would sit there and I would talk to her. I don't know if y'all have seen the new movie on Netflix, Voicemails for Isabella,
Yes,
or
I saw
something
it.
like
I
that.
want to, haven't yet. I
Oh
need to watch
my
it.
gosh. That movie hit me so hard because for the first maybe few months, like it's exactly what I was doing, reaching to call her, leaving her voicemails in my head, like Tracy, telling her stories about what's going on with me, or then I would go sit at her grave and do the same thing and just talk to her and just, I need to hear from you.
So she's buried here in San Antonio?
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. Is that my father-in-law is 5 steps away from her.
Oh, wow.
So when we see my father-in-law, I get to see Tracy, or when I see Tracy, we see my father-in-law.
If you can share about the funeral, burial, your emotions. Did you end up singing at her funeral?
I want to say I did. I don't remember.
Is it more of a blur to
It
you?
is a blur.
That's what we were
It
going to
is a
ask.
blur. But I want to say I did. I want to say I did. It would only be right. It would only be.
Probably did. And I can understand it being a blur because I remember at my father's funeral, everything was a blur too. My uncle's funeral, everything was a blur. And so I definitely understand how that can be a blur. You mentioned a bit ago how you felt because you weren't there when she passed. How was it like the days prior to the funeral? I know how hard that is when you're just in the waiting, just waiting because you don't want that day to come.
Yeah.
We know they're not there, but it's still goodbye. You're going to say your goodbye. So if you can share a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
I think I was in denial. I didn't want to accept. But I think that more than anything, it was because I wasn't there. I wasn't there to be with her. So all these thoughts started going through my head. Did she know that I loved her? Did she know I really wanted to be there? But God had other plans. All these thoughts were in my head. I cried so much. I fell into kind of a depression in a sense, if you will. I was afraid to make more friends. I didn't want to make friends because I was afraid of losing. One other time that I have felt this way, not that I don't love my uncles, my aunts, my grandma, anybody else. There's only been one other time where I have felt so suffocated. And that was when my brother, cousin Nick passed away. That was the first time I ever felt that way. And with Tracy, it was the same thing. It's a loss that it's unexplainable. It's the feelings are unexplainable. It literally feels like they tear your heart out. And I know that y'all probably understand that.
Now I do. If you've heard my first 2 episodes, yeah, I went through that. I'm listening to everything you're saying. I'm like, I know. I know.
Yeah.
It's hard. So the burial was the same thing, obviously. If the funeral was blur for you, I can only imagine. To me, yes, the funeral is hard. It's so hard. But to me, the funeral is the most, oh my goodness.
The burial, yeah.
Especially, I'm sorry, the burial. Especially when that casket is going down. It's so hard. And I'm sorry that you had to go through that. You kind of mentioned a little bit of that, so I'm going to kind of go back to it because I wanted to ask about your grieving process, because we know everybody grieves differently. Me and Rose, we grieved my uncle differently. We grieved my dad differently. And one is not more than the other. Everybody has their way of grieving. So I know you shared right now that you mentioned you would go to the gravesite and that you knew she wasn't there. And it goes back to what I've been saying in my past episodes. They mentioned that we know they're not there, but it's our way of grieving. It brings us a little peace and comfort for that moment. It was been 10 years on Friday that my dad passed away, and my family and I, we went there. And right after that, I told my sisters, I have to go to see my uncles. I have to. And I did the same thing. I went to his, and then the day that my uncle passed away, right after his burial, I told my sisters, I want to see my dad. They took me. Actually, Rose is the one who told me, do you want to go see daddy? And as soon as she said that, I was like, yes. And it brought a little bit of comfort at that moment. So that goes to say is we know they're not there, but that's people's way of grieving, and there is nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
I feel like sometimes people say, yeah, enough. It's already been 13 years or it's been however, like, I'm sorry, but everyone grieves different and everyone grieves on their own time. There is no time to grieve.
There's no time frame.
And grief will always be there no matter what.
Right. Yep. It doesn't matter how long it's been. I miss her every single day. Every day I miss her. I have my moments. Her birthday is May 2nd. And so she just had a birthday. And I sang. I sang in hopes that in my thought process, she loved to hear me sing. So I sang. I sang a song for her in hopes that Jesus would quiet down the angels and say, shh, my daughter's singing to her best friend. That's just what I'm thinking. I personally don't believe that they look down on us anymore. That's just me. But I don't know. God is the God of all impossibilities. And if he wants to allow that, he will. So
I like to think, me personally, I like to think, this is just me, I like to think that God allows them to see their answered prayers as another proof that he is the God that answers prayers, their desire, whatever they were praying for, that he allows them to see. Like that's just me and my own brain.
I think that, I guess everybody has their own, and there's no right or wrong answer, I guess you can say, because we don't know,
Exactly.
we don't know.
We won't know till we get there.
We won't know till we get there. Like, okay, I have this question, God, I need to know. But yeah, that's just, to me, it's like, oh, well, that's a question that only God knows. We'll see. We'll see.
So there's one thing that I sometimes will do. My Tracy, when you go through the drive-through, you know how sometimes they tell you, okay, they got your order, you paid everything. Can you go to number 1 and we'll bring your order out? Or if they don't have your order ready, they'll tell you, can you move forward so the next person could come? My Tracy would always say, no, I'll stay right here because y'all just giving false information that your order is ready and that the drive-through is running smoothly. But no, that's okay. I'll stay right here. So I've done it several times.
They just look at you.
Yeah, they look at me like, okay. So I will do that in her honor. There's a song by Spring Love by Stevie B. Those are songs that we used to listen to when I used to have my Camaro Z28 and we would go to BRAC or to military and jam. So sometimes I'll just listen to it because it reminds me of her.
Yeah. And I know we're still on the question of the grieving process. And as you mentioned, there is no timeline. There is no end time to grieving. I'm going to repeat that. As long as we talk about grief, I am always going to repeat that. There is no deadline. There is no end time to grieve. We will grieve forever. And it's only God that sustains us. And it's like an ocean. And sometimes the waves they're not little. Sometimes it's going to be the tsunami waves that are just going to come and hit out of nowhere. And it's going to feel as though they just passed away or you just received that news like that day that you were at work. As far as the grieving process, I know you mentioned right now that you were so angry at God for a while. And how were you able to cope with that?
By being honest with God about how I felt. Even though I was mad at him, I knew at the same time that he was going to bring me peace. I knew he was going to allow me to express what I felt, but then love on me. And that's just something that even to this date I do. Like, I will ask him. People always say you shouldn't ask God why. That's not true. He's my father. I ask my own father why. My earthly father. Why wouldn't I ask my father?
And I just realized that because I was with a lot of, unfortunately, there's a lot of Christians, and I'm not gonna lie, I was one of them that I used to think, because that's how a lot of Christians are brought up or they're taught, that you don't question God. You cannot question God. You serve the Lord. There's no questioning God. Do not ask God why. And I had that mentality. I did. And I'm going to be here. And like I said in my episode, I'm going to be honest. I was one of those. I never went and told people, oh, yelling at them, you shouldn't question God. I didn't do any of that. But I mean, there was times when people would tell me like, and I would say, well, you're not really supposed to question God, because I was one that never questioned God. Everything in my life was going wrong, and I never asked God why. There were times I wanted to ask why. I just never did. When my dad passed, I wanted to ask why, but I didn't, because I thought if I did, I was sinning. And it wasn't until my recent experience with grief when I started questioning God. And that's when I had a counselor who spoke to me, and she told me what you just said right now. I like what you just said. She's like, I question my father. He's our father. And then she said, the reason why God does not care if you question him is because he has the answers to every question. He is still God. What? And you questioning him to him, it's like, okay, what question do you have? He already knows the answers to all the questions. He knows that you're going to be okay. So I just wanted to emphasize that because I like what you said. He is my father. I go question my father. They do tell us to talk to God like if we're talking to, like the way we're having a conversation right now. So if I'm going through something, I'm going to ask you why. So thanks for putting a highlight on that, because I think that's very important to say.
I know you said that you were angry with God. How long has it been since Dad has left?
I can't say that I'm angry with God anymore for not allowing me to be there. I'm still lingering a little bit, wondering why. Like, what was your purpose? Not lately. Maybe, like I said, in the past, maybe 2, 3 years, I've come to terms with it. And I believe now that he sees further than I do. He knows what's up ahead. He knows my plan and the purpose for everything. I may not see it now, but in due time I will. And I know that I got a little piece. Like I said a few years ago, Thalia has never seen Tracy with long hair. Tracy had super long hair. And one day Thalia said she had a dream and she saw Thea Tracy and she had long hair and that she had big wings.
Oh, wow.
And that brought me peace. Then he told me, Tracy loved you very much. And that brought me peace. Then our baby brother, JD, has told me the same thing. I had lunch with Mama T. I call her Mama T, Tracy's mom, a few weeks ago. She gave me pictures that Tracy had of us, and she told me herself, Tracy loved you very much. And that just brings me so much peace to know that Tracy knew how much I loved her. And if she knew how much I loved her, she loved me back just as much. And that has brought me peace. But it doesn't change the fact that I miss her.
Yeah.
No, of course not.
Yeah. It brings that peace knowing that she passed, knowing that although you weren't right by her side, she knew that you loved her.
That
And
she
she knew,
understood.
she understood, and she knew that if you could, in that moment, in that second, that you would be there. Is that like another disappointment, maybe?
I felt guilty.
Mm.
Does that make sense? I
It
felt
does.
guilty because I was like, she's my sister. I should be there.
Yeah.
Tracy is not just anybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's my Tracy. I felt guilty for not being there.
Even though it was out of your control, you still
Exactly.
felt guilty. Like
I
you
did.
felt like you could have done more, or there was something that you could have done.
I blamed it on God.
Mm, mm,
You could have done more. It was beyond my control, but you could have done more. That's how I felt.
I see.
But of course, I asked God to forgive me because I
You
serve a
know,
good God.
Mm-hmm.
yes, yes,
Yes. And the thing is that God knows those emotions that you were feeling because those are true emotions: anger, frustration,
He created
disappointment.
those
Yeah.
emotions.
I know He
Yeah.
probably just said, go ahead, mijita, do what you gotta do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In time, you're gonna know the answer.
And you said you had just forgiven yourself, right? It's been, how long has it been since you forgave yourself for
Probably
that?
about 2-3 years.
And
I
that's
carried it for a
recent.
long time.
That's
Yeah.
recent.
Because she's been gone for 13 years, right? So
Yes, 13.
it
I
took
carried
about
it for
10
a long
years.
time.
I know
Long
that
time.
you mentioned a little bit about this earlier, but I know that unfortunately, as family, we have experienced a lot of different losses of family members. I know you mentioned earlier of your brother slash cousin that was one of the other hardest losses that you experienced. And I know you touched a little bit about the fact that it was kind of similar as far as like the suffocation feeling of it when you got the news that they're passing, but not that one is greater than the other. But how did this loss differ from the others when it came to the grieving process?
So, like the grieving of my grandmother, or both my grandmothers, our abuelita, and then my mom's mom, my grandma, I got to be there. I got to be by their side. I think that's what it is. My tío, I was super close to my tío, and you guys know that. He was another hard one for me, and even
Our dad.
different from my abuelita and my grandma. Yes,
Mm,
like it was different.
mm,
Um,
And you
not
were
that I
there.
loved,
So, yeah.
not that I loved any one of the others any more than the others. It was just different. The relationship I had, I was very close to my grandma. My grandma lived a very long life, and my abuelita also lived a long life, but it was different. I got to be there for Tio Riche, for abuelita, for my grandma. I wasn't there for my brother.
mm,
He was in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't there for Tracy. She was in California.
mm,
Yeah,
mm.
God
I
can do
think
it.
that's what
Wow.
the difference is.
Mm,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that makes
Yeah, you
sense. That's
were
what we,
you were
yeah.
there when my dad passed. You were there till the very
Yes,
last breath.
yes, I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see and understand why, not only because of course that's your brother and your best friend, but the fact that you just weren't there. I can only
Yeah,
imagine the heartache.
exactly. Besides God, what other avenues have you taken to help you cope? You mentioned listening to the music that you both would listen to when you would drive, going to her grave. Are there any other avenues that you use, or those are the main ones?
Telling stories about her, keeping her memory alive. I can honestly tell you that I probably talk about Tracy every day, one way or another. We'll remember something about her. Andres will bring her up. Talia would bring her up. Just the other day, I was looking through Talia's stuff, and when Talia was a baby, Tracy sent her a shirt that said Hollywood on it. Talia was tiny. Talia won't get rid of it. She has this bow holder that she had made for Talia that holds the bows for the hair. She still has that. One story, Andres was a rock collector. He liked rocks. And so one day Tracy flew in and she had collected rocks because she loves the ocean. She loves to be by the water. And so she would collect rocks. And one day she flew in and she left a bag of rocks on our door. I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know that they were rocks. Juan got home and he threw them away. And then Tracy sent me a message, hey, I left some rocks for baby boy. And when Juan told me that he threw them away, I was like, oh my God, those were the rocks that Tracy got him. So we went and got him out of the trash. And to this day, he still has rocks that Tracy collected for him. But another way is staying in touch with Mama T and with JD. I stay in touch with her only brother because her dad and her brother Frank passed away as well. And so JD and Mama T are the ones that are left. And so I try to stay in touch with them as much possible. Have lunch with Mama T as much as I can, and just do everything I can to keep her memory alive.
And you mentioned that she loved the ocean. When you go to the ocean, when you go to the beach, do you ever just sit in front of it and just think about her?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I've written a couple of songs at the sound of water. When I used to work for Saws, after her passing, I wrote a song called No Entiendo el Porqué, and it was inspired by her and my brother. And out at the outfall, because I would go to the back. Once the water was clean at Saws, it would go into the Salado River, but it was a beautiful outfall. Y'all should look at it. But the sound of the water, the sound of the beach, whenever we go to the beach, the ocean, it just, and sun. Unfortunately, I am allergic to sun, but I try to take in as much sun because my Tracy Sunshine, she loved the sun.
I was going to ask about that actually, because I've seen that you call her Tracy Sunshine. I always wondered, was there a reason for that name? And you just mentioned she loved the sun and she loved the ocean. Yeah, the ocean's so peaceful. As y'all know, that's my to-go. Besides God, that's my to-go. I go every Father's Day. Every Father's Day.
She loved going to the beach. She spent a lot of time at the beach before her passing.
So I know that you mentioned about spending time with her mom and her brother. What and who were the key players in helping you get through this hard time of grief? Besides God and her mom and her brother, who were some other key players?
My husband truly understand what Tracy meant to me. He was probably one of the closest that understands. And then, of course, my kids, bringing up the great memories, the fun memories we had, and then just the memories we had will forever be etched and engraved in my heart, you know? But I would say my husband.
That's beautiful. Yes. And did he grieve her too? Was he just trying to be strong for you during that time? Or did he also have an opportunity to grieve her? Because you and Juan had already been married for how many years before she passed? So he had a good chunk of time of knowing her and spending time with her, and she was a part of y'all's life. So
I think he was just trying to be strong for me, understanding what Tracy meant to me. I think he was just trying to be strong for me. But then I don't think he got to really grieve her because the following year he lost his father. Yeah.
Well, I could just imagine how that was for you as well, because you were grieving your best friend and then you start grieving your father-in-law right after.
And I wanted to ask something. Rosie, you asked about her husband. She passed in 2013. Talia and Andres were little. How did you break the news to them? How did you explain that to them? I know Talia was really little during that time. How did you explain death to her?
I think Talia was 5 when she passed away. Andres was like 10, maybe 11. Andres took it really hard, really hard. And so did Talia, because they knew her. They knew her as Tia Tracy. I remember when I left work, it was hard for me to drive home. I had to pull over because I couldn't breathe.
Focus,
I couldn't breathe. I couldn't focus. And then I had to go home to tell the kids. And I remember telling Andres and my other kids, Diego and Devin, got to meet her as well. And they all took it hard. They all did.
Sure.
Jojo took it hard too. But I want to say Andres and Talia were the ones that really felt the impact of her loss.
Wow.
Andres ended up putting a post of her with some song that talks about everywhere you go, everywhere I'm at, I think of you, or something to that. I don't remember what the name of the song, but I knew then that he was grieving.
Yeah. And they were so
Yeah.
little. They were so little. So I can
Yeah.
imagine how hard it was for you to break that news to them. I'm sorry y'all had to go through that. And I do want to ask, what advice can you give to someone that lost a best friend? We've lost our grandma. You lost your brother, who was Nick, right? Nick was like your brother.
Nick.
Your brother. We talked about all these losses, and obviously it's a different type of hurt. What advice do you give to people who have lost a best friend?
When you have a friendship like the one I had with Tracy, it's irreplaceable. You're going to find little things in someone else. And I believe that God does this. He puts people in your path that remind you of the things that you had with your friends. And I have several friends that I can tell you remind me sometimes of Tracy. A couple of best friends now. Don't shut yourself out. Don't be afraid of making a new friendship with someone else, because I believe God sends the comforter. Does that make sense? I understand it's the Holy Spirit, but I understand that God places people in your path for a reason and a purpose. And for me, for the longest time, I shut myself out to friendships because I was afraid.
May I ask, when did you stop shutting out? Like, when did you come to an end with that? How
I
long
want to
ago?
say about maybe 10 years ago.
That's
It didn't
not that
last
long.
very long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to say that a few years after she passed away, God placed a couple of people in my path, Melissa and Valerie, and I always share Tracy with them. I do believe that God has placed them in my path to remind me of his love, and that Tracy will never be forgotten. She
That's
won't.
beautiful. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. You just answered my next question, which was, do you approach your friendships differently since the loss of your best friend? And you just answered that question. And I think
Yeah.
that's very important, because I was just thinking right now what you just stated, that God places people in your life, right, for a blessing. And you don't know, for a purpose, and you don't know what, even if it's just for a year or for 2 years or whatever the time frame may be, there's going to be a blessing in that, whether a conversation, whether a prayer that is said over your life, whether it's just creating certain memories that are going to bring an impact to your life. I know that there are, Ruthie, if you don't mind me sharing that in full detail, but I know that she also was struggling with that, of after our losses, that not wanting to get close to
I'm
other
still
people for
struggling.
the, yeah,
I was
she's still
actually gonna
struggling
mention.
with
I was
that.
gonna mention that to her right now.
Yeah. And so I know that for me personally, it's the opposite when I lose somebody. For me, it's, I don't want to lose any time with those that I love. I want to create more memories. That's me. I start getting fear that what if I lose them and then I'm going to regret not making those memories or spending those times or having those conversations or having those talks or whatever the case may be. Right now, my sister is struggling with that. So I appreciate you being transparent in that, Blanca, and sharing that experience, that you have experienced that. You did struggle with that, but you also have come to the realization of the beauty in creating new friendships, creating new relationships, and what the beauty is in that, that only comes from God's divine alignment, you know?
Yes. So I will say that a few years after Tracy's passing, of course, I shut myself down, right? 10 years ago, I met, maybe it's been longer than that. Yeah, it's been longer than that. It's probably been about 14 years before Tracy's passing. I had met Melissa, but we were just friends. But I can tell you that in the past maybe 6 years, 7 years, she's my best friend. And we can share, pray for each other, all of that. And I know God is blessed me with her and Valerie as well. Valerie, it's been about 6 years as well.
Thank you,
Oh,
Jesus.
thank you,
And
Jesus,
thank
for
you.
that.
I was listening to what you're saying because, as Rose just said, I'm struggling with that. This is where I'm at right now. I'm afraid to get close to anyone, whether it be a friend, whether it be a close family member. I'm struggling with that. It's something that I'm talking to God about, giving it to him and just tell him to remove that from me, because like Rose said, she's the opposite. I don't want y'all to think, or anyone out there listening to think like, oh, because you don't want to get close to anybody, does this mean that you're not going to spend more time with this person? Or it's not that. I love these people. It's just that I'm so scared. What you mentioned, Blanca, a bit ago, the way you were describing your pain when you lost Tracy and when you lost your brother. And when you said suffocating, pain in your heart that you can't describe.
Mm-hmm.
I had never felt that before until recently. And I never want to feel that again. I never do. And I ended up feeling it again on Friday when I went to go visit my dad. That day, I didn't even want to get off the car. I was just sitting there. I didn't want to get out of the car. And we were parked there, and I turn around and I see the cemetery. It's been 10 years since my dad passed. We go every year. We go as a family all together as one. And I had never felt that. And I was telling my sisters that I felt like if you see a movie and you see like there's a burial and it's dark and you just see it's raining and you see everybody just dressed in black and they're just there mourning. That's how it looked. It looked like a part of a movie as I was looking at that cemetery and I was walking towards my dad's grave. I felt like I was at his burial. Like we were burying my dad that day. Like I felt suffocated. I was on 3 days no sleep. I cannot explain it. And that's what I'm afraid of. I'm scared of that pain that I feel. I don't want to feel that again. I know life is life and I eventually will. But this is why I'm afraid to get closer to my loved ones. I'm afraid to make friends that are gonna, I don't want to lose anyone. That's where I'm at right now. I don't want to lose anyone. And thank you for sharing those words because it did make me think. It did make me think. And who knows, someone listening right now who's in the same boat that I am, and your words might help them.
So one thing I can tell you is don't be caught like I was.
Mm-hmm.
Don't allow that fear of getting close to someone rob you because you just might be the blessing that someone else is looking for. And if you shut yourself out to someone else, they'll never get to experience that. God has put you on this earth to be a blessing to someone else. And we know that we are only here on borrowed time. So we need to make the best of what God has given us. I never realized that I was a blessing to other people until now I hear it. That they're blessed to have me in their life when they don't realize that they're blessing me. There's two quotes that I remember that Tracy used to say. She'd say, never underestimate the power of kind words or sincere gestures or actions. They bless folks more than you know. Can you imagine that, Ruthie? You have all that in you. Be that for someone else because we aren't really here for us. We're here for him.
Yeah. Mm.
Then she would say, live simply, love generously, care deeply, speak kindly, and leave the rest to God.
That's beautiful.
Mm. Well,
Yep.
thank you so much for sharing that with me. And hopefully those words were also a blessing to someone else. Is there
Yes,
anything, Rose, any other questions or anything you want to say?
If you have any special traditions to honor her memory or anniversary of her passing, but you did mention going to her grave, singing to her on her birthday. Are there any others that you didn't mention
other things that I do,
that are traditions
honestly,
to honor her memory or on the anniversary of her passing?
every day that God allows me to wake, I do my very best to remember her. When I see the sun and it's shining so brightly, I think of her. Today, we were going to actually take a drive to Corpus. I wanted to see the beach, but it got late on us, so I didn't get to go. But just anything and everything. Talk to JD, or we'll mention Tracy sometimes, and or he'll say, or when he calls me, "Hey B, how are you doing?" That just it warms my heart
Just hear
because
you,
just
hey B. Mm-hmm.
yes, hey B, and I have another friend, Sunny, who has been calling me B as well, and she didn't know,
Mm.
and I let her know, and she goes, "I'm so sorry." She goes, "I won't call you that." I said, "No, please do,"
Mm.
because
Because it
it's
helps
like,
you.
yes, it
Mm-hmm.
does.
Mm-hmm.
Call me B. And when I order food, I'll say B.
Mm.
B.
So it's keeping her alive.
Her memory
Mm-hmm.
alive.
Yeah, her memory
Mm-hmm.
alive. For
I
sure.
carry her with me everywhere I go. I carry her with me.
That's
Yep.
beautiful.
And she was really beautiful. She was.
Yes, she
She
was.
Thank
was so
you.
beautiful.
Yes, I remember when she went to visit the church, and I remember seeing her and thinking to myself, "Wow, she's so pretty." She still had the long black
Uh-huh.
hair. I remember that, and she just had beautiful hair, and I just thought she was really beautiful. And she was so sweet. She was really nice. I only got to meet her once or twice, but at least I got a chance to get to know who she was. And I
Yeah.
heard many stories from you about her. And so thank you, Blanca, so much for sharing your story. I know it was hard. I know it brings back, triggers all those emotions again, but
Yeah.
we really do appreciate you taking the time today to share your story and also bring her memory to life with us and allowing us to go through that journey with you as you spoke on it. So thank you, Blanca, so much. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you all
Thank you so
having
much.
me on your show and again keeping Tracy's memory alive. And just want to say one thing that she would say: there's a difference between Tabasco and Cholula. There's no, there's a difference.
I'm not a
Which one was
Cholula
her
person.
favorite?
Yeah,
Which one
which
was
one
her
was your
favorite?
Tabasco.
favorite?
Oh, her favorite was
Tabasco.
Tabasco.
Yes. Like when
Yay,
they
that's
would
my
bring
favorite.
mine
That's my
too.
favorite. Yeah. People think
It's
I'm
a different
crazy because
taste.
I
Yes.
prefer Tabasco. They're like, it's like you're drinking vinegar. I'm like, no, I'm not.
No.
I like it.
And
No.
it
Yeah,
yes.
Tabasco's good.
I like
It does. I don't have
Tabasco.
a favorite. I
And
like both.
Josiah does not. I always have Tabasco here, and then he always has to have Valentina because he's a Valentina person.
Okay.
And I'm not a fan of Valentina. I'm not a fan of Cholula. I gotta have my Tabasco, and he tells me, "Mom, when he sees me pouring it, how can you eat that, or how can you put that in your food?" I'm like, "It's good.
It's
It is
different.
good." Thank you once again, Blanca, for being here. It's been a pleasure to have you here. And so we have talked, everyone, we have talked about grief, as we mentioned earlier, losing a loved one, a blood family member, a physical death. A lot of people think women who have had miscarriages think that they don't grieve. And so we're going to close out this series. The next series is going to be on miscarriage and infertility. We have guests lined up for that.
Yes, because when it comes to infertility, it is not just grieving a physical death, as you mentioned, of someone who had a formed relationship or with or able to physically see, feel, or even touch. Grief can also be expanded to the loss of a dream, an expectation, or something deeply desired. So we ask everyone to join us next time as we begin on the topic of infertility and miscarriage with a special guest who will be joining us, who will be sharing their story on this very topic.
Well, thank you once again, everyone. We look forward to for you listening in our next episode. And don't forget that God is love, mercy, and grace.